My guest at this time is Tim Haas. He's the program director for U.S. Disaster Response at Samaritan's Purse. The group, headed up by Pastor Franklin Graham, has been assisting in disaster relief in many different parts of the world for many years now. Right now, they're working pretty close to home. Not only are they helping folks affected by Hurricane Florence in their own home state of North Carolina, but now they're working along the Florida Panhandle in the wake of Hurricane Michael. And Tim, thanks so much for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on today, Greg.
What were your first thoughts when you saw the swath of devastation there?
Yeah, it's hard to put into words. Pictures, are I'm sure circulating through the media. It's vast. It's very widespread. We knew we were in for a difficult situation when we were probably just under 100 miles away from Mexico Beach, and we saw a lot of trees down, a lot of wind damage, and it's a lot of houses that have trees all over the place in the yard. Many of them trees are still on the homes. Power outage is widespread. Services are still down and trying to come back as quickly as possible. But there's a lot of need every direction that you turn.
Some have said that the town of Mexico Beach is simply gone. Is that how you would describe it?
I personally drove through Mexico Beach Friday, and there are many structures that are no more. They do not exist. And there are houses that several streets back are damaged. So I do not know the future of Mexico Beach. I do not know how to say what anyone should expect, other than there's a lot of cleanup. There's still active search and rescue. There are still numbers of people that have not been accounted for. So would request that all your listeners pray. Pray for those who are missing. Pray for those who are waiting to hear word on whether or not they're friends, family, coworkers, folks they go to church with, folks that their kids hang out together. It's very difficult being in a situation where you cannot communicate and you are desperately wanting to know information about people. So we're looking at a long-term need for the area of not just Florida, but also Georgia, and also South Carolina, and also North Carolina.
How would you describe the people you've come in contact with there so far?
Words do not do justice to the appreciation, to the way that they express how important it is to see someone that is not from this community, that is coming to help them. They're quick to give a hug and express how deeply they appreciate the fact that they're not forgotten. And even if we were just to pick up one stick, it's one stick that they don't have to pick up. So the people here are so appreciative. This is a hard-working community. And so much of the work they are doing, they are helping their neighbors. They're helping their family. And so we are working today. We have teams in the field working today. We're just wanting to lighten that load and let them know that help is coming. Absolutely, help is coming.
We're talking with Tim Haas of Samaritan's Purse. He's the program director for U.S. Disaster Response. And Tim, let's talk about the Samaritan's Purse response in a number of different ways, starting with the physical response. What are your main priorities as you help folks pick up, like you just mentioned, and start to put things perhaps back in order a little bit?
Absolutely. So the physical work that is at each home and each address is so many trees down, so many limbs, so many difficult situations in high wind storms. Not only do trees go down, but they twist amongst one another and they catch power lines and they get on houses and they get on structures. And so it's the work of safely trying to clean that up, move the debris to the curbside. And then with many houses and with many roofs, they're not structurally sound. They're not weatherproof. And so we're endeavoring to tarp as many roofs as we can before we have the next rain. And then as we get closer to the water and closer to areas where surge and or flood is the issue, we will be mudding those houses out, and we will be helping to dry them out so that at some point in the future they could rebuild and get back in their homes.
What about on the spiritual side? I've heard some stories about how the resolve of the people in this community is absolutely fantastic. Other people, of course, I'm sure, feel like their lives are shattered. Even the people with great resolve probably feel like on some level major parts of their life are shattered. So how would you describe how they're reacting to this spiritually, and what is Samaritan's Purse doing to help them in that regard?
So Samaritan's Purse, we see and understand that our opportunity in storms like this, the work and the services that we provide, it's the vehicle. It's what allows us to meet people. Ultimately, we want encouragement to those people. We want to pray for those people. We want to share God's love with those people. And with the help of the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association chaplains, that's exactly what our goal is to share hope through the gospel and to tell people that Jesus loves them, to tell people that Jesus has not forgotten them, and to be able to point them to churches that are shining brightly in these communities. People who don't come to churches are coming to churches. Churches are stepping up to be the beacon of hope and to be those places where people go for questions answered. And so Samaritan's Purse sees ourselves humbly as an ability to support these churches, to support those that are already ministering in this area so that the burden is taken off of them while they're serving the people that they love and worship with.
Sometimes, Tim, we get caught up in the numbers of people and the amount of the property damage and so forth. But oftentimes, when I talk to folks from Samaritan's Purse or other organizations, it's one particular story that really kind of crystallizes what is happening there and why you do what you do. Is there anyone that you've come across or a story that you've heard from one of your colleagues that really kind of just sums up, this is why we do what we do?
Yeah, so my mind's flooded with listening to the personal accounts. Everyone has a story. Everyone that was here through the storm, they need to tell that story. They need ears that listen to and hear them. The first one that came to mind, Greg, was a young man. He's probably in his mid-20s, tall guy. I could tell he was a very independent and a very an outdoorsman type person. And he was talking to the youth pastor here at the church, and he said, I've never been afraid of anything. He had not experienced in his soul fear for something. Yeah, we get scared or we get frightened at something, but he said, I was afraid. And that really caught me, because I've been scared of things. I have fears, but to be in the middle of this storm, to weather this storm, to hear it go by, to see buildings and to see debris flying through the air, trees down everywhere. It's hard to imagine what they've gone through. It is, I believe, in my estimation, it is safe to say that people are still traumatized. They're still in a state of shock, that each day it gets a little better. The more chances they have to tell their story, the better they're going to do. And so for the church, for folks who have faith, have placed their faith and trust in Jesus, for them to be there sharing that with those who have gone through that, that's our goal. That's our desire. That's why Samaritan's Purse does what we do.
Samaritan's Purse responds to so many different emergencies around the world, whether it's tsunamis or earthquakes. I know you were helping with the Rohingya refugees over in Bangladesh. I mean, there's never an end to the need. So how can folks help out Samaritan's Purse if they wish to do so?
Greg, I'm going to say something that people hear all the time, and I don't know how to say it another way. The prayers of your listeners are so important. We need prayer support. The people that have been affected by this storm, they need prayer support. We need prayer support for safety. We need prayers that God will move in such a way that the hopelessness of people is found with the hope of Christ. And so I'm asking people to pray. If people are doers, if they have the availability, we welcome them to register with us. Go to spvolunteer.org. And if you can't get here quickly, this is a long-term event. This will give people a chance to schedule a time that's open for them to come. So spvolunteer.org is also a way that people can engage with us to help these people personally.
Tim, thank you so much for giving us a clear picture of how folks are responding down there and the work, physical and otherwise, that needs to be done here to recover. Give the website again, spvolunteers.org.
It's singular, spvolunteer.org.
Thank you, sir, so much for your time today. We'll let you get back to work. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, blessings to you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Tim Haas, Program Director for U.S. Disaster Response at Samaritan's Purse. I'm Greg Columbus reporting for Radio America.